Welcome back to Sunrise. A longtime ally of the United States has died. The Saudi royal family announced the death of King Abdullah late yesterday. His 79-year-old half-brother Prince Salman was declared the new king. He took dramatic steps in recent years to lower oil prices. King Abdullah was 90 years old. The king's death comes as the entire Arabian Peninsula goes through major changes. Just hours before the announcement of the death of the Saudi king, the Yemeni government collapsed. The president, another close U.S. ally, announced his resignation after rebels in the capital had surrounded the president's residence. The defeat adds to the chaos in a country where the U.S. is also carrying out drone strikes against al-Qaeda militants.
He's accused of planning to blow up our nation's capital and shoot the survivors, but he told a judge he didn't do it. Christopher Cornell entered a not guilty plea yesterday in a federal courthouse. Prosecutors are trying to convict Cornell on 3 separate counts: attempted murder of a government official, solicitation to commit a crime of violence, and possession of a firearm to carry out the attack. Cornell faces a mandatory minimum of 5 years in prison if convicted on all charges and could face up to life in prison.
A candidate for Kentucky governor attended the Right to Life rally. Former Louisville Metro Councilman Hal Heiner, who still needs to officially file, called for action from Congress.
Please listen to the scientists and their ultrasounds that testify for the unborn. Please listen to the founders of our country who listed among our inalienable rights as Americans the right to life as the first priority in the founding of our country.
Well, it's a timely topic on Capitol Hill.
Taxpayers will no longer have to pay for abortions. The House passed a bill yesterday in a 242 to 179 vote. 3 Democrats supported the bill that's typically backed by Republicans. Republican Richard Hanna of New York was the only Republican who voted against it. All of this comes on the 42nd anniversary of the Roe v. Wade decision that allowed women to have abortions based on privacy rights in the Constitution. Well, a sign that the election is just right around the corner. Your mailbox normally gets pretty full with those campaign slips.
At least that's how it's supposed to work. A mail carrier is accused of dumping hundreds of pieces of political mail in the garbage bin instead of delivering them. Ricky Kruger pleaded not guilty to an obstruction of mail charge after the U.S. Postal Service says it found 879 pieces of Republican campaign mail in a dumpster up in Green Bay. Kruger was fired from the Postal Service as a result.
Show me your hands. Show me your hands. Show me your hands. Don't move. Don't you move. Don't you move. Get him out the car, Raj. We got a gun in this glove compartment.
Intense moments right there. Caught on camera, a traffic stop turns into a deadly shooting. And this morning, a New Jersey police officer is being investigated for using deadly force. Here's what happened. The driver, Jerome Reed, gets out of the car, even though he was told not to. He raises his hands, which some say shows that he was surrendering.
To me, is not in a surrender position, because it's very easily to pull something out of your jacket pocket, shirt pocket.
Both officers involved have been placed on administrative leave. The officer you hear in that video at the beginning has crossed paths with the driver before, arresting him back in August on drug charges and resisting arrest.
It's a bird, it's a plane, it's a drone carrying meth. Drug smugglers take their mission sky high, but it doesn't take long for it to all come crashing down. Look at this. A drone crashed Tuesday night in a supermarket parking lot in a border town out in California. Now, while 6 pounds of meth may not seem like too much, it's a huge concern when it comes to border security. Plus, spending thousands on a drone goes to show these drug cartels have a lot of funding backing them up.
Well, are college athletes getting the education they deserve? That's the billion-dollar question this morning. Former players at the University of North Carolina sued the NCAA and the university for, quote, breaching their duties to student athletes. It cites a report from last year which showed for decades that UNC student athletes were directed towards so-called paper classes, and they didn't actually have to go to class. Because student athletes aren't paid, the attorney filing the class action lawsuit says they should at least get a good education.
All my friends at UNC and from UNC would like this to go away, but despite the reforms internally that UNC has implemented, there's been little or no talk about reform on the national stage academically. And I think the heart of this lawsuit goes to that very question.
The The attorney says student athletes make billions of dollars for the NCAA and for the universities. He says the least they should get in return is a real college education. UNC and the NCAA have not commented on the lawsuit.
It looks like McDonald's workers aren't loving it right now. 10 ex-workers from McDonald's filed a civil rights lawsuit yesterday claiming they were fired after supervisors said there were, quote, too many black people in the store. One of the plaintiffs says she reported the problem to McDonald's corporate office but never got a response. A McDonald's spokeswoman said Thursday that the company hadn't yet seen the lawsuit, but that discrimination is completely inconsistent with our values.
Well, two families came together to celebrate a 10-year-old girl's return from a Make-A-Wish trip, but the trip wasn't originally meant for her. That's because Emma Boyer isn't sick. She took the trip to Disney World in honor of her 6-year-old friend Levi. Levi has a rare genetic disorder that will take his life in just the next few years, and Emma befriended him at their school. They became so close that Levi's family gave Emma his Make-A-Wish trip because he was too sick to travel.
Emma had never seen the ocean, or she had never been to Florida or done anything like that, you know, and she got to go to Disney and Universal.
Emma shared her experience with Levi's family in a form of a photo album of the trip that includes pictures of Levi everywhere they went.
Oh my goodness.
heartbreaking
All right, when you
story.
get a
My
story that
goodness.
sad, we got to do something completely different.
Wow.
Get us out of that sad mood now, okay?
Yeah.
Tell us the snow's not going to be as bad as we initially thought. How about that?
Yeah, well, it's not going to be bad for
Good.
Louisville. And Louisville, cities near the Ohio River, southern Indiana, no issues for us. Now to the south of Louisville, some light accumulation there, and that's what we've been expecting.
5:54 here in Sunrise. 7 women killed, all allegedly by the same man. But now it's the sheriff who is dealing with the case that's in hot water. Last week, Sheriff John Bunsick said it would take a court order for him to, quote, provide entertainment to Darren Vann, the Indiana man accused right there of strangling and killing women and 5 others. Says it looks like a judge is taking that comment quite seriously. He's now been ordered to return Vann's book about the Chicago White Sox to him. After Vann's attorney complained he should receive the normal privileges given to other inmates.
It's a story of a Kentucky town struggling to rebuild after a deadly tornado and the judge who stood in the way. Morgan County Judge Executive Tim Conley pleaded guilty to fraud after getting $130,000 in kickbacks from a contractor from 2009 to 2013. Investigators say their scheme to rob people continued even as the town struggled to heal after the deadly 2012 tornado. Now defense attorneys are fighting with a prosecutor's plan to send Conley to prison for 11 years, which is 4 years longer than the federal guidelines. Conley's sentencing set for this Tuesday.
Well, it's a deal that sounds too good to be true, and now victims are out of hundreds of dollars. It's a pattern that's familiar to some of our folks around the area. A man named Glenn Stamper says he'll do work on a house for free. That's him right there. Clean out, repair the gutters, and all the homeowner would have to do is provide money for supplies and then put a sign in the yard advertising his work. But here's the catch. He clears out of town the second the check is in his hands. Search his name and you'll find reports dating all the way back to 2009. Stamper even spent time in jail in Lexington for the type of scam back in 2011. Police say it's no coincidence that many of the victims are senior citizens.
Some of our senior citizens are very trusting because that's just the world that they came up in, and so many people take advantage of that contract where a handshake used to be something that you could count on, and it's just not that way anymore.
It's not just Kentuckians falling for it. Lexington police say Stamper has active warrants for deceptive business practices in at least 3 other states. If you know where he is, call Lexington Police. Well, it is 5:56 this morning. All right, parents, you know what I'm talking about. If you have purchased an American Girl doll for your daughter, you know it's very expensive, but one couple goes to the extremes to avoid dishing out the big bucks. The couple is charged in a scheme they allegedly carried out at the American Girl store at the Mall of America. Officials say Henry and his wife right there, Jennifer, bought merchandise on a discount website and then returned them at the store for full price without providing receipts. Officials believe the total loss to that store is in excess of $5,300. If found guilty, they could each face a possibility of 10 years in prison and a $20,000 fine.
$5,300.
Wow. They are so expensive.
It must have been $2 that they dealt
wow.
with. Okay, a case that has seen lots of twists and turns over the past 15 years finally comes to a close. As a family member admits, he was the one responsible for a teen's death.
And you are looking live this morning at the bridges. A big announcement about the Ohio River construction project is coming up today. We'll tell you more about that in the next half hour of Wave 3 News Sunrise coming up at 6.